Time now to put some perspective on what's happening here in our corner of the universe. Berkshire Eagle reporter Carrie Saldo is sitting down with Robert Rizzuto of the Republican and MassLive, Henry Epp from NEPR, and George Forcier of the Greenfield Recorder for a look at some of the latest headline-making stories in our region and beyond.
Gentlemen, welcome. Henry, let me start with you. The travel ban that President Trump has issued, which is sort of pointed to 7 majority Muslim countries, is having an impact here in this region. And some of the reporting that New England Public Radio has looked at has sort of hammered down on some of that. One UMass student from Iran, looks like third time's a charm for him. Can you give us an update on what's happening with him?
Yeah, so he has made it to the country after several tries of trying to get on a plane back to Massachusetts from Iran. He's a graduate student. He'd gone back over the winter break to get married. My colleague Jill Kaufman has sort of been following him and staying in touch with him sort of at each stage of this. And he's finally just this over the weekend made it back to Amherst. But it was really, fascinating to me to see how immediate there was an impact of this executive order. Trump has put out a lot of executive orders in his first couple weeks as president. Some of them are a little more abstract. Some don't have that kind of immediate impact. But with this order, you saw right away the effects on people that live and work right here. And we also did some reporting on different resettlement agencies that are working with refugees in this region. There have been plans for several dozen refugees to come from Syria and other places to Western Massachusetts. Things are sort of in flux, and the agencies that are on this end waiting for those people to come, waiting to get them into housing and jobs and everything, have really been thrown for a lurch at this moment.
Yeah, and actually that's happening in Pittsfield as well. There was a plan to resettle up to 50 Syrian and Iraqi refugees, and they've all been given clearance, but now with this travel ban, we're sort of looking at what that will mean for these people. Some other reporting you did with Mohammed Najib from the Western Massachusetts chapter of Essentia Care Alliance. It was interesting to hear you speak with him about some of the finer points that he thinks that this sort of raises in the travel ban, some confusion. It might not be clear what minority means, who that applies to.
Right. There's been sort of this debate, right, that the administration in the executive order said that certain minority religious groups in countries where they are the minority religion should be prioritized when in the executive order they restart the refugee resettlement process. And that's not clear. I mean, there have been sort of some insinuations by people in the administration that is aimed at Christians in Muslim majority countries. But the language doesn't specifically say that. And so he was bringing up that point, that it's really uncertain what exactly that means.
Yeah, and the courts are looking at the issue, and clearly it's a controversial one and one that will be discussed for at least the immediate future. Speaking of controversy, George, your paper is looking at a controversy in the Turners Falls area. There's a mascot named the Indians at Turners Falls High School. And as I understand it from the reporting I read in your paper, the school committee's looked at the issue, and there's been some criticism of the school committee where people have said, they've already made their decision before the public vote even took place. Where does that issue stand?
Well, it's still sitting where it started, which is in the lap of the school committee, the Gil Montague School Committee, who essentially took this task on themselves after hearing from about a half a dozen people last spring who raised the issue of how appropriate is it in this day and age to have a Native American image as a school mascot. And I think it simmered over the summer, and then this fall the school committee developed a very sort of exhaustive plan for exploring that question and perhaps coming up with an alternative. Turns out that the plan, which was designed to solicit lots of public comment and lots of sort of educational programs to bring everyone awareness up to speed on this question, has been going on so long that everyone's really worn out by the debate because the sides pretty quickly and maybe predictably formed very early on. You've got the traditionalists, if I can call them that, who who feel invested in the Indian mascot that's been.
Sure, it's a part of the school's history, its legacy. Their kids may,
Absolutely.
I played there, maybe my kids played there.
Under that name. So they're really invested in that, and they have been for generations. And then the other folks who are more sensitive to, I guess, the politically correct notions of the day, which suggest that this is offensive to Native Americans and shouldn't be done, period.
And it's certainly not the first time we've looked at this issue in the region. Amherst College right now is in the midst of finding a new mascot after it ousted the Lord Jeff mascot last year, because there were some questions about Lord Jeffrey Amherst and his implications, being controversial. And as I understand it from reporting based out of that area, that they haven't decided on the new mascot yet. Years ago, the now known as Massachusetts College of Liberal Arts had the mascot the Mohawks, and now they're the Trailblazers. 2002 they changed that. So
and in Deerfield, just north of here, for many years it was the Redskins. Right. And about a little over a decade ago, the same issue came up, and after a lot of acrimony, as in the Turner's case, it was changed to the Red Hawks. So we'll see how this plays out. There's a very, very strong sentiment to keep that mascot in Turner's Falls, and in fact, this past week, a petition was submitted and will be placed on the spring town election, a non-binding referendum that asks to keep the mascot. I don't think the school committee is going to wait to hear, although they could choose to do that. I think the last week, a majority of the committee members decided that this has gone on long enough. No minds are being changed, and they should just vote. And they have choices. I don't know if you noticed, but last week a bill was entered in the legislature that would ban any Native American imagery in use by public schools for mascots and that sort of thing. So theoretically, if the school committee wanted to avoid making a tough decision, it could just back away and see what happens in the legislature.
It'll be interesting to see where that goes, given that UMass, its official seal, still has a Native American on it as well.
Yes, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, so we'll have to see where the issue goes. Thanks for that information.
Right.
So, Rob, your newspaper and online publication, the Republican and MassLive, used some video in some of its recent reporting. It's a 2-minute and 40-second video out of the police department, and some pretty violent video at that. Your organization filed a public records request to see not only the video but some supportive documents. When and why did the paper make that decision to go ahead and file that public records request?
We filed the request once we learned that there was this video. We had heard rumblings for a while that 3 Agawam police officers were being disciplined for an alleged use of force incident. Through our sources and a little bit of digging behind the scenes, we came to find out that it was something that transpired at the police station. Then once we kind of had our own look at, what kind of technology was there, what kind of things might be accessible, we learned that the surveillance video, which is very high quality from the Agawam PD, was among the items that were being looked at in this investigation. So knowing that at the conclusion of the investigation, we'd probably be able to get all this and let the public see, and we'd see for ourselves what actually happened, we immediately filed the public records request. It was for the video as well as the independent investigation, all the documentation.
And so in the video, we should say it's 3 white officers, and they get into a scuffle with a white gentleman who they've arrested for being intoxicated at Six Flags. And as I said, in about 2 minutes and 40 seconds, you see this pretty aggressive struggle between the 3 officers and the incarcerated the charged man. And the officers, as I understand it from your publication, have been fired at this point, although they're appealing that decision. Any information on where that appeal stands right now?
Yeah, actually, we just had a development in that. So there was 3 officers involved in this. In the video, you see 2 of them kind of holding this man down and wrestling with him, and one of them, who's doing that as well, pulls out his baton, and he's really he's striking him several times.
You see him striking him on the torso. You see him striking him on the legs.
Yeah, he really goes at him while the other 2 are kind of restraining him. So at this point, after the civil service hearing, the 2 gentlemen that were holding him down actually have gotten their jobs back. And the 3rd officer, who was the one seen in the video using the baton, his firing has remained. So the case is actually at the end of its legal process, if you will, as far as the Agawam PD and the State Civil Service Commission, as far as everybody there is concerned.
And we should say that the Hampden County DA declined to press charges against the officers, and the attorney representing the officers have said, they applauded the decision for the video to be released publicly because they felt like it had exonerated the officers that they were representing.
Yeah, this was a very interesting case in that we had both the Agawam Police Chief Gillis, as well as the lawyer for the 3 fired officers saying, we want this video released because everybody from their own perspective thought that the video either proved that they used excessive force or vindicated the officers, which was really interesting. We've never had, with some of the other police tapes that we've sought after, it's never been both sides looking to get this out there. But yes, in the end, the District Attorney, Anthony Gallooni, declined to press any charges against the officers. 2 of them got their job back, 1 didn't. The question now remains, will the person that was arrested at Six Flags for allegedly being intoxicated, will he file a civil case against the Agawam PD and the officer that remained fired for potentially excessive force?
We'll have to see where that goes. And just quickly, a bit of reporting coming from my newspaper, the Berkshire Eagle. The paper recently looked at the broadband issue in Western Massachusetts, which, depending on where you live, you're either very aware that you don't have broadband or you are completely oblivious because you're living happily with adequate internet access. Some reporting from our I-team, Larry Parnas and Patricia LaBouffe, found that the race to the moon actually has taken less time than the establishment of broadband internet in Western Massachusetts. So we have 44 communities that are unserved by broadband here in Western Massachusetts. It took 8 years and 2 months for us to get to the moon, and it's now 8 years and 5 months and counting, and still not broadband internet access throughout Western Mass. Any impact that this is having on folks in your community that you guys have heard?
Well, Franklin County is quite rural, like the Berkshires, and I forget the number of towns, probably about 6 to 10 of the towns in the Wired West Cooperative are in Franklin County. And a lot of those folks who don't have access to internet, except maybe at a town hall or a library, find 2 problems. One, the inconvenience of not being able to partake in the cyber world without going to work or going to parking outside your library. And then there's a more serious consequence, because businesses that are cyber-enabled, internet-enabled, can't work in the hills, can't function in the small towns. Real estate values are starting to take a hit. Someone wants to move from New York to Western Mass, and they expect there to be broadband. So the values of properties people feel are starting to feel the effects of that.
Well, great, gentlemen. I appreciate your time today. George Forcier of the Recorder, Rob Rizzuto of MassLive, and Henry Epp of New England Public Radio. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.